Good morning. If there are any candidates here who aren't at the table, will you please come up? Hi. Chris. She's just going to bring them up. On to where she's just going to bring them out. Thank you very much for coming out this morning for the Leon Valley City Council Candidate Forum. My name is Phyllis Ingram. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters. With me here today is the President of the League, Madhu Schreeder. League member Steve Ingram will be doing the timing, and League member Judy Branch is collecting questions from you. Steve, would you hold up? When each candidate will have 60 seconds to answer questions. When you have 15 seconds remaining, Steve will hold up that card, and then when he holds up the stop card, please wrap it up right there. Okay, we always get really good questions out here in Leon Valley, so we're always happy to come out here and do these candidate forums. And with that, I'm going to start by introducing the candidates. See, that's why the president's here, to keep me in line. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that works to engage citizens actively and educate them in their community and their voting rights. We are a nonpartisan organization. We never support a candidate or a party. So with that, I'll introduce the candidates on today's forum. For place 1, Evan Bowl, Vinnie Martinez, and Elaine Valdez. For place 3, Danielle Carrier, thank you, Bolton, and Jed Hefner. And for place 5, Will Bradshaw. And so we'll start with Mr. Bowl for a 1-minute opening statement.
Thank you. Thank you and good morning. My name is Evan Bowl. I am a candidate for place 1 City Council. I am 30 years old, and I've lived in Leon Valley for 27 of those 30 years. And so I have been able to see the evolution of our city. And yet, the evolution has not stopped. Starting at the age of about 14 and 15 years old, in the world of animal welfare rights, I began my community leadership skills there. Growing up and joining organizations at colleges in our county at the state level, serving in leadership roles when asked. I decided to step up once again in Leon Valley when asked by citizens to run for city council to ensure that Leon Valley continues to go forward to a brighter future versus going backwards. Thank y'all.
Mr. Martinez?
My name is Vinnie Martinez. I believe with my past experience on City Council, I will be able to contribute greatly with the reforms that have recently started. I envision working towards Leon Valley's future, not just today, but 5 and 10 years into the future. We need to make Leon Valley attractive to younger families and new businesses. I support modernizing our pools, a new admin office for public works, and a dog park. I also support phasing out the red light cameras. I have always supported our police department. During the recall, people were afraid to sign the petition for fear of retaliation from our fired police chief. We can work together to change the attitude and culture of our police department and take steps to return the trust and respect our police officers deserve. I am Vinnie Martinez, running for City Council Place 1. I humbly ask for your vote.
Ms. Valdez?
As a Leon Valley resident, I'm here today because I want to make a difference in the city, which my husband and I have chosen to be our home. My lifelong passion has been to help people do better than they thought they could. My style is not to wait on the sidelines and expect others to do the hard things. It's to pitch in.
This past year has shown us how much control government has over our lives, and that really disheartens me. I believe that government should not arbitrarily pick winners and losers. Last December, I was asked to serve in this role, and I've sought to be a calming presence to our city, to help return the focus to the important issues that face us. Given the opportunity, I will endeavor to represent all citizens of Leon Valley with a heart of servant leadership, advocating on your behalf, defending individual liberty, and restoring an environment of civility and respect to our city.
Thank you. Mr. Bradshaw?
Good morning, and thank you all for coming, and for those that are watching online, thank you for taking the time out to learn about the candidates. My name is Will Bradshaw, and I am running for re-election to Place 5 of Leon Valley. I've served one term, and when I decided to run, I would go around door to door. Obviously, this is pre-COVID, and talk to the citizens, and I would tell them that I am not a politician. I do not have an agenda, things that I want to do. I want to listen to the citizens and advocate for what the citizens want. And I've tried to do that in my role. I feel like I've accomplished, despite what's happened with the city and a lot of turmoil when I got elected, and a lot of people with their own personal agendas. One of the things that I heard was, we want to stop the towing of cars on people's property for having expired registration, and we were able to do that with this new council in the last month or so. And so I hope that you vote for the best candidates and listen to the issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Some of these questions, one or two of you have addressed in your opening statement, but since they were questions from residents, I'm going to re-ask them at some point as well. But let's start out with a pretty broad question. What is your plan to make Leon Valley a great place to live? And we're going to start with Mr. Martinez.
I believe Leon Valley has a lot of potential. We need to encourage businesses. We need to revise our zoning code and to do things to encourage new businesses to move into our city. The city operates on two funds, basically: property taxes, sales taxes. If we lose businesses, property tax goes up. If we get more businesses, property tax can go down. It's a simple formula. I look forward to doing things to encourage business. One thing that needs to happen is getting rid of the sustainability overlay. that has hampered some of the businesses moving into Leon Valley. We can do things to still maintain our culture, but I would like to see Leon Valley, when you drive into it, you know you're in Leon Valley, the same as Elmo.
Well, I support all of the capital facilities improvement proposals, and I think we should need to continue to collaborate with the city of San Antonio, the Valdez Road Corridor Plan, and the TxDOT study, and listen to the feedback of the citizens who have already had stated that they want mixed-use development, neighborhood connectivity, aesthetics, and semi-public green spaces. We have many citizen committees in our government, and there are many vacancies, and we need to fill these vacancies and have more citizen input.
Thank you. Ms. Bolton?
Thank you. My plan for Leon Valley is, well, based on our tax rate, we pay more than most other cities our size in the San Antonio area. I would like to address how that money is being spent. If you look at Alamo Heights compared to Leon Valley, the streets are clean. There's plants, there's trees, there's flowers. It's nice and neat. I'd like to improve the way Leon Valley aesthetically looks, to promote the businesses to come to Leon Valley because it's pleasing. People want to stop from Bandera Road because things are neat and clean and the lights are working and it's not just dirty looking. And right now it is. I'm hoping that by how we change how we're spending our money, it will help to make Leon Valley more appealing to families to buy here, not rent.
Thank you. Mr. Hefner?
I think that people are creative. People can come up with solutions for how they want to live their own lives. I think the best way to allow our city to move forward is to get government out of the way. I think if businesses want to move here, they'll want to move here on the merits of Leon Valley. We can make it certainly more attractive, but to Ms. Bolton's point, I think we have a fiscal responsibility and a fiduciary responsibility to taxpayers to steward their funds well. So in order to do that, I think that we let the markets decide rather than picking and choosing who we want, who any individual may want to bring a particular business. We can certainly solicit those businesses, we can certainly invite them to come, and we can do things to make it more attractive for them, but I don't believe in picking winners and losers.
Thank you. Mr. Bradshaw?
Thank you. So I think Leon Valley's on the right track. We're starting to see some changes. If you look around you at this beautiful conference center, it's been remodeled. It's made some improvements recently. Our park is well known throughout the area, the Raymond Rickus Park, and we have the neighborhood parks, the pocket parks they call them, throughout the city that are really nice and being used by communities and young families. And I think we also have an award-winning library that is well known throughout the region. And those are the things that attract families to Leon Valley. And I think we need to continue to improve those things and keep them up. And as Mr. Hefner alluded to, if we kind of like if you build it, they will come. If we put our efforts into the things that are important to the community, the families, then our community will continue to grow and develop.
Thank you. Mr. Bull?
Thank you. What I would be interested in ensuring that we make Leon Valley better is that first, we must ensure that we're reducing our liabilities in the city government to allow better fiduciary considerations and ensuring we have a clear path ahead about how we're going to spend our money We need to be willing to invest in the city as citizens, as city staff, as elected officials. And we need to ensure our citizens have the information they need to be confident in feeling that they can invest in this city in whatever way we end up doing so, whether by bond, CFO, or community direct participation, which leads to being participating component of the city. Citizens have the ultimate say on these committees and boards that direct the path in which Leon Valley will be going. So if we want to make Leon Valley better, we need to ensure that citizens have the say to city council. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question, we're going to start with Ms. Valdez. And there have been several questions on this, so I'm just going to paraphrase it to ask what your opinion is on the red light cameras. Do you think they should be continued?
I've been speaking to many residents, and they often bring up the topic of the red light cameras, and there seems to be responses for it and against it. I do not have all the facts, so I cannot make any decisions one way or the other. I think I need to look at the statistics of the revenue, the amount of crashes, certain intersections, maybe they work better than others. So there's a lot to look at, you know, and asking for feedback from our EMS staff and others that have the statistics and more information about that topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me, Ms. Bolton.
As far as the red light cameras go, I too have gotten very responses. A lot of people are against them. In the research that I have been able to do so far, it shows that they really do save lives. That they, it is actually, it reduces traffic incidents, and I know that I've heard that people were worried about, well, it causes people not to drive through Leon Valley. Well, usually people that are speeding and running red lights aren't going to stop and go shopping. They're busy, they're trying to get somewhere. So I kind of, you know, looking at both sides of it, I looked at the AAA report, I looked at the Institute for Highway Safety's report, and all of the data that I have been able to find so far says that the red light cameras are an effective, they help reduce the amount of car accidents in the city. I'm open to more information. I haven't made a decision yet because I don't have all the facts.
Thank you. Mr. Hefner?
Thank you. I'm definitively against red light cameras on principle grounds. I believe that they are an invasion of privacy and invasion of civil liberties. They're the government reaching into your pocket to take money out of your pocket. The conversation about safety is a red herring. You know, we can cherry pick the data stats that will support one way or the other. There's pretty convincing evidence, and at our last city council meeting when we took up this topic, I shared some of that research. This is peer-reviewed research that is proven in the number of cities. I think there were 12 or 13 different cities that had been studied that had red light cameras, that they all actually resulted in a net increase in traffic accidents. So I think that's a red herring. But on principle, it's taking money out of your pocket. And it's doing it in a way to try and generate revenue, and that's not the right way to generate revenue for a city. You know, I think that we do that through other means, and there's no end of all the good things we can do with more money, but I just don't think it's an appropriate mechanism to take money out of citizens' pockets.
Thank you, Mr. Bradshaw.
So this is an issue that's been researched, again, talking with citizens, but besides just talking with citizens, doing some statistics, Councilor Stevens actually pulled this information from the TxDOT website. Accidents in Leon Valley have increased over 110% since the implementation of the cameras. 431 average accidents annually. Prior to red light camera implementation, 925 accidents since the implementation of the cameras. But that's just some research from TxDOT. There's National Motors Association published an article, and I have copies of these if people are interested. I made copies of this fact sheet on red light cameras. Studies have been done by Case Western University, by multiple Texas Transportation Institute, multiple universities that show that this does not improve public safety. And like I said, it really is about money. Why do you think so many cities have banned them?
Thank you, Mr. Bradshaw. There's a question here that I'm going to interrupt the candidates to answer myself, and it's how do you justify using pre-written questions addressed to all candidates? This is a candidate forum. It is not a debate. And the league has learned over the years that we proceed better and get more questions in if we have them written on cards and asked by the moderator. So that's the answer to that question. Okay. Here's a good one. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Ball.
I think it's me and then Vinnie can answer that question as well. So regarding red light cameras, it's not about revenue, it's about accountability. If you commit a crime, you should pay for it. That's just plain and simple. We know that Balcones Heights is famously known when going down Fredericksburg, you do not mess with violating the law there because they do enforce it. But here in Leon Valley, we've seen that more than 60% of the tickets that are quote-unquote generated are not actually enforced. They do not go out to the violators to then have to pay. And in our contract, we have a 10-year term. And if at the end of this first 10-year term we want to get out of it, we simply have to send a letter with 120-day notice that we do no longer want to be inside of it. Or if before then that the cameras become costly and they cannot pay for themselves, then they can be taken out of our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez?
I am against red light cameras, and I look forward to gradually reducing them and get rid of them. It may take a bit of time to do it. It's not something we can do overnight. One of the things that bothers me is the reporting. In the CPAC committee, it was reported that red light cameras have reduced crashes in Leon Valley. But if you go to TxDOT, it shows the opposite. So was the data mined and made to appear like the red light cameras were good, where in essence that they weren't? So I stand on removing them, and that 80% of our citizens want them removed.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to start this question with Ms. Bolton. If elected, what will you do specifically to attract Black businesses to our community, and what would you do to protect Black citizens' rights?
What would I do I'm going to clarify the question.
What specifically would you do to attract Black businesses to Leon Valley, and how would you protect Black citizens' rights?
I don't really know. That is a question that I think a committee would have to come up with. To promote, I would find out who's looking, I guess, for a place to have a business. I mean, I'm not sure how you would actually go out and get people to want to have businesses other than have like lucrative things, make the costs more efficient for people, advertise that you would like to bring more businesses to the area. To protect them, I would ensure that they have recourse, that if something is going on, that the police take it seriously and it's acted upon, it's not just ignored, that it is enforced.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Mr. Hefner?
Yeah, so two-part question. You know, I don't think this is a very difficult question. The first question on black businesses. You know, I believe that if government's not in the business of picking winners and losers, that all businesses will be welcome and all businesses will come and be attractive. I believe that issue will take care of itself when we're not getting in the way and we let the markets decide. The second aspect, I think, is much more cogent to our current environment, and that is how we protect citizens and minority communities. And I think that what we've seen across our nation has been a realization that every single encounter with police can potentially turn deadly. And every time you enforce a law, that I don't believe that if there's not a victim, there's not a crime, right? If you're enforcing a law that doesn't have the victim, you're creating an artificial encounter with police that if you end up not complying with their demands, could cost you your life.
Thank you. Mr. Bradshaw?
So yes, I believe in treating all businesses equally and not making it more difficult for one over the other. I know that there are several minority-owned businesses within Leon Valley, and you know, I try to support all businesses that run a good, have a good product and good service. And then as far as protecting black citizens, I know that every year the police do have a checks and balances where they do a racial profiling test, I guess it is, an audit, and Leon Valley has a good track record of that, and I would continue to make sure we get outside oversight to make sure that we're adhering to those audits.
Thank you. Mr. Bull?
Thank you. You know, you never can tell unless you have the leadership to show and represent the climate of today. Many businesses of minorities will go where they feel they are represented in city government. If the city government is not representative of that group, they are likely not to be there. So I would say that ensuring their blood, there is the mindset, there is the acceptance in city government will start to increase the confidence of minority businesses to come to Leon Valley. But I would also be willing to actionably create a diversity committee that is actually built of somebody not necessarily in Leon Valley, but from our neighboring cities, to spotlight and to reach out to minority businesses to come to Leon Valley. Thank you.
Mr. Martinez?
In this regard, I am colorblind. I support all businesses. I don't care if a person is black, brown, white, or green. Everybody deserves the same respect. The quality a business provides will ensure whether the customers will go back and support that business. I'm a businessman in Leon Valley. I own my business, but I am not the boss. You guys are the boss. If I don't provide the service, you'll go someplace else. In my tenure in city council, I've always viewed that the people are my boss. So I don't care what color a person is, everybody deserves the same respect.
Ms. Valdez?
I've spoken to 2 black business owners recently, and I've asked them what some of the barriers that they face or special issues that they face when they brought their business here. And they were very open about some of their interactions with some of the departments of our city. So I think first is to speak to the black business owners and get their experiences, and then see what we need to do to make corrections so that these things don't continue. And I believe that the Northwest Chamber of Commerce needs to step up their game, and the city, the council should collaborate with the council, with the Chamber of Commerce to attract and protect these business owners.
Thank you. Ms. Bolden?
Well, I already talked.
I'm sorry, I like to trap myself here. No, we can talk last. Okay, Mr. Chapter. Couple of questions on this topic. In the midst of a pandemic, many people have lost income. What is your position on citizens using their greatest asset, their home, to temporarily sublet Airbnb style in order to support their families? And would you put any limit on how many are allowed in the neighborhood?
Thank you for the question. Great question and great, timing in terms of what our city's going through, what our country and our world is going through. I think that government should not be in the way. We should not place any restrictions on how someone can use their private property, especially in a time when we've had people see dramatic losses of income. If you work in the restaurant industry, if you work as a musician, if you work as a bartender, you've been unable to work for most of the last year, and you've been unable to put food on the table for your family. So I don't think that there should be anything that government does that inhibits the creativity of its people, of our people, to provide for their families. If you have an asset, if you have your home, and you can invite someone into your home, whether you're there or not, in order to generate revenue for your family, you should be able to put that asset to work.
Mr. Bradshaw?
So I also agree with that people should have the ability to sublet their houses, Airbnb. We talk about creating regulations and how many should we have and making all these rules. We're really trying to create a solution for a problem that doesn't exist. We're putting the cart before the horse and trying to regulate something that's not really a problem. Now, if it becomes a problem, if we start seeing that 90% of the city is Airbnb, then we need to say, wait a minute, something's going on here and it's causing problems. But in reality, people are not coming to Leon Valley to rent out the whole city. I don't think that's the issue. And so I think that government should get out of the way, let people do what's best for them and their family, and if we start to see issues, then we can address it.
Thank you. Mr. Bowl?
Thank you. So I know recently we, City Council, Brandon Milan, who works in one of our city directors, has brought forth and started the process to make Airbnbs and subletting of homes a possibility, since it has not been previously. And again, that goes with the changing of the times, the climate, and changing of the mindset of our city. And so I fully support that, but I believe that it's just an extension of renting your home out, which we allow already. So leaders, we need to be have insight and have the foresight to ensure that we have a path forward that's not just willy-nilly free reign, and then be reactive when it comes to how we go about this with our regulations and our laws. So I believe that there needs to be outline already in place, and that's how we can go forward safely.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez?
I support the Airbnb. The real question is, I don't want that next to me. And that's the problem with everything. This cropped up a couple of years ago with the St. John Church. They want to build a beautiful church. I don't want that next to me. what, most Airbnbs are low impact. You will hardly even know that they exist. The same with group homes. If they're run properly, you don't even know they're there. Now, if there is an issue, call the police. There's laws that can protect the residents and the citizens of Leon Valley if they have a wild party. So we already have the laws. Let's get the government out and let people use their house for what they want and let them support themselves. It's either that or welfare.
I support the Airbnb for homeowners. I think it's a win-win situation, win for the homeowner, for their revenue, and also for the community, that there's alternative places to stay, part-time or more full-time.
I have very mixed feelings about the Airbnb, and it may just be based on my experience with my neighbors. I think that if there were rules regulating it, where if something did go wrong, that they were already in place, that our citizens had a recourse, that they could do something if there was a problem, that it could be, worked out to where it would be acceptable. But I don't think waiting until there is a problem to come up with the rules is the right way to handle it. I think you need to have something in place before it even happens to protect our citizens from that time that they would have to be suffering while we worked it out between us. I have found that neighbors can have a major impact on the quality of your existence every day, and I would not want to wish that if there was a bad situation on one of my community members.
Thank you. Okay, so Mr. Bradshaw, we're going to start the next question with you. And I'm combining two questions here. So one is, please describe your paid employment during the last 5 years, and have you accepted more than $200 from any one donor?
So yes, so for the last 5 years, I actually changed jobs a little over a year ago. I'm a supply chain manager, which is purchasing, receiving, shipping, logistics, and inventory control. Those that don't know supply chain. For a company called Tower Semiconductor, which is a hot topic in the news right now. A lot of automakers are short semiconductors, so needless to say, we are very busy, which is a good thing, good problem to have. Before that, I was working for a company called Aviat Networks, which builds 5G towers. So always, a lot of times, been in the tech industry. And yes, I have received a few donations over $200 from some citizens and from other supporters in the community. And I really do appreciate those who believe in what I stand for and to represent the citizens.
Thank you. Mr. Bull?
Thank you. The kind of source of income that I've had over the past 5 years comes from being employed, both part-time, full-time, both in fact, as well as running my own small business out of my home and across this county. When it comes to, being in the community, I feel that's where I'm most like everyone else. And I have, up till recently, did receive a contribution of more than $200. Those come very rarely, and it does not affect how I feel about those who support me and don't support me, because everyone who is like me cannot give over $200 in donations. And so, to me, a $20 donation feels like it's more than $200. But yes, I have received a donation and more than $200. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez?
I own Qualtel Technologies. I've owned it for 17 years. We are a Leon Valley business. I'm over on Grissom. We are a full-service IT company. We started as just a telephone interconnect, but now we've migrated into a full-service IT company. And I have received donations over $200. And, I welcome, these are people that support me, that know what I've done for the city in the past, and they want me to continue helping the city. Thank you.
Ms. Valdez?
I'm a retired recreational therapist. I work primarily with mentally ill. And in the last 5 years, I've worked part-time for Northside Independent School District at their aquatic center. I've been employed by the San Antonio Parks and Recreation Department in their seasonal summer swimming programs and facility supervision. And I'm also a part-time Masters swimming coach for the Masters of South Texas.
And have you received a donation in excess of $200?
I have not received any donations. Two people offered to support me, but I declined their offer. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bolton?
For the past, up until this year, for the past 4 years, I was a high school assistant principal. And that was like having 3 jobs because of games and everything on the weekends. It was pretty intense. Because of COVID and my own children, I've changed jobs. I'm now working in an elementary school as a special education facilitator. I love teaching. That's just what I love to do. As far as donations, I have received 1 donation, and it was my flyer, or my door hangers, and my signs were paid for, and it was over $500, and it's the only donation that I've received at all.
Thank you. Mr. Hefner?
Thank you. For the last 11 years, I've worked for a major consulting firm. I've done consulting work for private and public entities, Dow Chemical, Tesoro, Marathon Petroleum. I've worked with U.S. Army. I've worked with the USDA. I've worked with MWR. It's a DoD organization that does morale, welfare, and recreation. And currently I'm working on modernizing the TSP.gov system, which is basically 401k for the federal government. And so my entire career has been in public service, serving our government to make systems, to make processes more efficient. It's what I do.
Thank you. And have you?
Oh, and yes, I have received donations over $200.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Bowl, we're going to start with you. I'm combining questions again, so do you favor reestablishing an economic development corporation? And what plan do you favor for redeveloping Bandera Road?
Thank you. So I do favor that. Someone who's actually newly appointed to the Economic and Capital Development Advisory Committee. That's something I'm be looking into. And regarding the plan for the Bandera Road plan, I have seen the Boulevard plan. The plan is currently before us, and that we'll be considering. And there are just a few concerns that I might have about it regarding the basically the space in which people will be able to drive on Bandera Road and the outlying sections with encroaching on the businesses. But I believe with a more informational setting, we could get a plan ironed out, because my whole goal right now is to see that the utility lines are buried. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez?
I favor the EDC. I would like to see the city reconstruct the EDC corporation. I was not in favor of doing away with the EDC and making it a city department. I was not in favor of our previous city manager spending that $700,000 plus for a street. That is not what the EDC money is for. That money should have been reserved and used strictly to entice businesses and help business move into Lehigh Valley. As for Bandera, I support the either the boulevard or the parkway plan. I think that would be beautiful, and I always have envisioned, I want people to know they're in Leon Valley when they drive in here. And that would definitely improve our image and make us stand out.
Thank you. Ms. Valdez?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
I can. Do you favor reestablishing an economic development corporation? And what plan do you favor to redevelop Bandera Road?
Thank you. I'm not familiar with the Economic Development Corporation, and I would definitely need to do my homework for that question. I'm fairly new to Leon Valley. I've lived here 2.5 years. Regarding the Bandera Road plan, I'm definitely supporting the boulevard concept, having separate pedestrian pathways, bike pathways, and of course vehicles, and improving the transit, the connectivity within the neighborhoods, having the semi-private public spaces, and certainly more greenery and aesthetics.
Thank you. Ms. Bolton?
I too am not as familiar with the Economic Development Corporation. If it is based on improving the businesses and how we are developing our land and what visions we have for the future, then I don't see any issue with it. The plans that I've seen so far for Bandera Road are beautiful. As long as it's not a flyover and we can improve the way that the city looks when you go down Bandera Road, do away with some of the dirty cement and have that, even if it expands a little bit into the businesses' parking lots, that's pretty much drainage and that would be redesigned. I would be completely for it. We need to have something done. It takes too long to get from Bandera Road to 1604 because of the way it's designed currently. Thank you.
Mr. Hefner?
Thank you. So I think I'm the only one at the table that's actually served on the Economic Development Commission back when it was a commission and not an advisory board. I don't think that the unfortunate situation at that time was that the citizens on that committee weren't able to dedicate the time and the know-how that a department of the city could. I think the way it is today needs to be reformed. I don't think that having the code enforcement and the business development person be the same person is an efficient way to do that. So I think there's changes that we made there. As far as Bandera Road, we all know the flyover is dead on arrival. DOA, right? That's going to tank everybody's property values. Nobody wants a flyover in Leon Valley. The boulevard, unfortunately, is as pretty as the designs that UTSA put out are. I believe that's also DOA, because we would have to expand Bandera Road to the use of eminent domain, and we'd have to have a taking, the government would have a taking there, or we would have to reimburse those businesses to expand the road. I don't think that's feasible. The third option is a parkway, which essentially would make it, 6-8 lanes across with directional signaling. And I think the challenge there is you lose some of the aesthetic features,
Thank you.
but it's probably the most viable option long term.
Thank you. Mr. Bradshaw?
So I would also like to reevaluate the Economic Development Corporation idea. Mr. Hefner just alluded to that a lot of people didn't have the time to commit to that, and so that could be an issue. But I also agree that there's a conflict if you have code enforcement also trying to do economic development. So that's something that I believe is in the works of changing, and we need to do that. As far as Bandera Road, I agree the flyover is not a solution. I think we need to look at creative solutions that will allow for more traffic, whether it's installing another lane or 2 lanes, how we're going to do it. I would prefer a boulevard or parkway concept. I think there's some creative things that can be done, and I also think we need to when we do this, bury the power lines. That's one of the major things is utility lines. If you look up and down Bandera Road, you just see power poles up and down. It would be a lot more aesthetically pleasing and more attractive if we could put those underground. save some space.
Thank you. So, Mr. Martinez, back to you. Given the size of Leon Valley and the number of police officers per capita, do you support diverting police funds to crisis management teams?
That is a hard question to answer. Right now, I believe our police department is overstaffed in a couple of ways. We have 11,000 people in Leon Valley. Do we need 6 detectives? Our former police chief brought a lot of his buddies from San Antonio over to Leon Valley. For years and years and years, our police department was at approximately 35 people. And right now, I've heard numbers all the way from 68 people to, I believe it's 51 now. And I might be a few lower than that right now. But I don't think we need to have a SWAT team or some kind of a special team. We just need to build up our police department and let them generate the trust that has been lost.
Thank you. Ms. Valdez?
I'm not familiar with the number of police in our department and the ratio of police to per capita, but I do support the crisis management teams. And I do support part of the police budget being for these management teams, whether it's to focus on gang activity, mental health problems, or domestic violence incidents. And I believe that there's never enough training in service in all of those areas to prepare our police staff for these problems.
Thank you. Ms. Bolton?
I do believe firmly in having a crisis management team. I think that's a fantastic idea. However, looking at the police numbers, if you look at the violent crimes and the property crimes in Leon Valley over the last couple of years, I could not find the statistics for 2020 because I'm sure of COVID, but from 2018 to 2019, our violent crimes went from 155 to 73 in 1 year. And our property crimes went from 321 to 341 in 1 year. Looking at the statistics, it looks like having more officers has reduced in some areas, but it has not reduced in other areas. I think this would be something that needed to be discussed and really looked at of where the budget would come from. I think it's a fantastic idea. Not quite sure how we would put it together, but it would need to be worked out. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hefner?
Yeah, thank you. So what we've seen over the last several years is inflation in our police department directly linked to red light cameras, right? All that revenue came in and we're able to grow our police department. Again, there's no shortage of good things that can be done, but more of your hard-earned money. Whether our police department is overstaffed or not, I think that's going to be something that's evaluated by our police chief when that individual is hired. I do think that we got to be creative because we have limited resources. So we have this unique opportunity that we live in the 7th largest metropolitan area in the country. There's this concept of economies of scale. Bear County, San Antonio have these crisis response teams in place. We should partner with them. Just last council meeting, we had a resolution before us to partner with San Antonio to send Leon Valley police officers to San Antonio when they have additional needs. So I think that that's a good way to make a two-way street. And I think that we can really look at what's full-time, what's part-time, what's reserved in terms of our staffing and find the best solution for our city.
Mr. Bradshaw?
So I don't know if everybody is aware, but we recently made the offer and it was accepted for a new city manager for Leon Valley, who's currently the assistant city manager in Arlington, Texas. He'll be coming starting in July. And I believe he will, as a member of city council, I would like to, encourage him, direct him to look at our police department and look at our current crisis management teams and how it's set up. And I believe we don't need a separate group that's crisis management and say, you guys are the tornado, emergency team, and then they sit here and wait for a tornado, right? But, that's not how it works. We could have members of the police department, staff, different areas of the department of the city that you're part of these crisis management teams that hop into action. We have specific things you do in case there is another snowmageddon or something like that that happens that's unexpected, and how do we respond to that? So training is important, and the leadership is what's most important.
Thank you. Mr. Bull?
Thank you. So, right out the door, as someone who's previously worked in law enforcement field, officers are overburdened as it is. We wear more than 10 hats at any given time. I believe in having a crisis management team specifically because crisis management comes in all forms and has no day off. Where I believe that right now we cannot do that because we lack the funds right now to even have a fully functioning staffed police department, much less any of the other departments. So that's our first problem. Misleading numbers about the total staff of our police department have been going around because if you take that total number and divide it by the detectives, patrol officers, the traffic officers, and the problem is while we've had some reduction in crime, we have not reached what we need to have. And so right now at any given time you have 2 to 3 patrol officers on any given shift. So, and usually you need 1 or 2 officers at any stop, and it creates a problem. So I think we need to find a way to make that better.
Thank you. Ms. Valdez, I'm going to start with you on this next question. You're all, running for a position on city council, and these are city council questions. So, one is the city council going to be more involved in the hiring process of top positions such as police and fire chiefs? How are we as a city going to be more transparent? And what are your plans to improve communications with citizens?
Regarding the hiring process, I was very impressed with the hiring process for our new city manager. It was very objective, and all of the counselors spent much time listening to the interviews and scoring them on their questions, and then getting together and tabulating the results. As far as transparency, I really appreciated last December when there was 2 vacancies on the city council, and rather than the council going behind closed doors and appointing 2 new city councilors, they opened it up to an application process, and we were in a room like this, and the citizens got to hear from all the applicants. And as far as communication, we have e-news. It's a weekly newsletter. Everyone in the city that has a computer should be receiving the e-news.
Ms. Paulson?
Thank you. I'm hoping that with the new city council that we would be having, that the members would be more conducive to working together as a team, that we're not against each other. It is us working together with common interest, which is making Leon Valley better and listening to our citizens and doing what needs to be done. It's not about us. It's not about our egos. It's about what's best for our community. And you've got to take the we out of it and make it about every single person. I do believe that is getting better. And being more transparent is not having things that are not discussed. I like the fact when we have open meetings where people can come in and listen. I don't like it when council goes behind closed doors and you don't know what's going on. I think that having things discussed in the open with the public is good, and with the social media that we have these days, communication is long, and as we take the time and the effort to communicate with our citizens, and we have an open door policy, I think that will take care of itself. Thank you.
Mr. Hefner?
Yeah, thank you. So just to clarify the question was, will city council take a more active role in hiring a police chief, fire chief, et cetera? And then the second part was engaging citizens.
Just communication with citizens and
Transparency.
transparency.
Great, thank you. So as far as hiring goes, our current city charter doesn't allow the city council to be involved in those hiring decisions. That's exclusively the purview of the city manager. I do believe that there's reform needed for the city charter, and that will be something that this next council will tackle in 2022. So I think that's the relevant issue on that topic. As far as engaging citizens and increasing transparency, I think it's critical that we use technology. We talk often about within our community there's a digital divide between folks of my generation and younger who grew up with technology, folks of generations older than mine who maybe aren't as comfortable with technology. I think it's important that we work to close that digital divide, to help people become more comfortable using the technology tools. We demonstrated that at our recent town hall, where we were able to use a cutting-edge polling tool called Mentimeter that was widely raved about. It was really, really well accepted. And even amongst citizens of older generations who might not be as comfortable. So very, very well done. I think we need to do more of that.
Thank you. Mr. Bradshaw?
So as Councilor Huffner alluded to, unfortunately, our city charter states that, the city council hires the city manager, and then the city manager hires all the department heads. And then there's been things put into our charter that says the city council shall deal with city staff only through the city manager. So they set it up. This is the previous city manager who was very involved in the writing of the charter. I talked to a citizen last night that was on that charter creation committee, the original one. And they said her hand, she was there every meeting and directed how things were done, unfortunately. So I believe our charter needs to be repealed or completely replaced the way that it's written, because it kind of ties our hands as council. And then as far as transparency, we've tried our best to be as transparent as possible. As was mentioned, with the selection of the new councilors and with the selection of the new city manager, we tried to be open and transparent about as much as we could to let people know what's going on. I think we should continue to do that. And as Councilor Hefner also mentioned, using technology, Facebook, social media, etc., we need to let citizens know. I got a text this morning saying, is there a coffee with the mayor this morning? I see cars. So obviously, we're not quite there yet. There's a lot of people that still are not getting the message. Thank you.
Mr. Paul?
Thank you. So, when it comes to the hiring process, our form of government is not a new form of government. It's just like San Antonio, Coney's Heights, and any other city in Texas that operates on a home rule charter with a council manager form of government. The council in a business would be the board of directors, the city manager would be your CEO, who then hires all the department heads and the staff. The board of directors may make recommendations as to whom they would like, but ultimately it's the city manager that would make that determination. And when it comes to being transparent, being transparent about the facts of the situation, ensuring we have a path for transparency, not just for the citizens, but for city employees as well, to ensure that we have our grievances heard fairly. So having an ethics law back in our city, having our city elected officials complying with open records requests, and having most if not all deliberations that are legally possible open is what we need. We need to stop attacking our city staff and stop attacking the very thing the citizens would like, and that is the home charter. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez?
I believe our charter is flawed. Our former city manager acted like she was the city council, the city manager, and the mayor in one person. I do support in a revision of the charter, I believe that city council should be consulted, or just like in the federal government, approve the different department heads, whether they're being hired or fired. I would like to see city council in on that process. I think all decisions where we can be done in public. I don't want to hide anything. And for communications, we have the Lions Board, we have e-news, and in the future, whatever new means, social media, whatever comes about, our city needs to be a leader and embrace that new technologies and get out the word to the public.
Thank you. Ms. Bolton, we're going to start this question with you. Okay. What large projects are citizens requesting that City Council will be moving forward with?
Well, there's quite a few of them. I know that rebuilding the public works is something that everyone is in favor of. I know from the past meetings that we're in favor of putting in a dog park for the Leon Valley citizens, for redoing the swimming pools. And we have quite a few projects that are going to the additional pocket park. Being on the park commission for the last 3 years, we've tried to do a lot with our different parks and our different areas, the bike trail and the hiking trail in the different areas. As far as the largest ones, I would say that it would be improving the pools and the bike trail and redoing the public works and the library annex.
Mr. Geffner?
Yeah, thank you. So there's no shortage of projects and things that we can do that would really improve our city, our stature around the community and around the region. I think that the top issues that were brought up at the town hall were, as Ms. Bolton mentioned, the Public Works Department. The pools are falling apart. We have 2 pools in our community, both that are 50+ years old, that need to be modernized. Our park should be a crown jewel of our city and differentiate us and allow our city to become the hottest new place in the northwest side of San Antonio, which is the fastest growing side of the city. However, all of those things take money. And so when we talk about how do we do these great things, at the end of the day, that costs money and that's going to cost tax dollars. For me, I'm not going to vote as a 5-member body to increase your taxes. If you choose to vote in the November election to take on a bond, I'll support putting that bond on the ballot, and I'll let you decide whether to proceed with those projects.
Thank you. Mr. Bradshaw?
So as already been mentioned, Public Works facility, the swimming pools, and the parks, and including, I'm in favor of putting in a dog park. However, I don't want to raise any taxes or spend city money on stuff that that not everybody get benefit from. You think about it, you're going to try and raise everybody's taxes or have people pay for something they say, I don't have a dog. Right? So we don't want to do things like that. What I think we should do, what we can do, and I've seen it done before, is public-private partnerships where you can reach out to dog food companies. I actually do have a dog, and was at a park the other day, and I saw a nice bench, and it said, donated by Benefiles, right? Karina, I think it's a Karina brand. And so I think we could reach out to companies. Another one's been sponsored by HEB, and ask for them to help us to accomplish some of these things. And the same thing goes with the swimming pools. Why can't we get sponsorship of it? Definitely, it's one of the things when I moved in here, I said, I don't want to go to that pool. It's got barbed wire all around it and stuff that might not get out. So I want to, definitely make our parks and our swimming pools more welcoming.
Thank you. Mr. Cole?
Thank you. And so was mentioned previously, public works, swimming pools, parks, as someone who also sits on the park commission, and we've been discussing where we want to put the dog park and how we're going to be updating our parks to be the crown jewel of Leon Valley, since that's what we would love to be known for. You know, projects do need funding, and if you're bringing a concern about project idea to me, that's telling me you're willing to ensure doing whatever it takes to get that. And so we need to be willing to have the determination to do whatever it takes to fund these projects. If it's informing the citizens that it's going to raise the tax rate by a percentage or so, you know, we have to inform them that's what it's going to take, because for the last 50 or so years, we are having to catch up in such a short amount of time on what should have been invested in the very beginning. But we've had a lack of information to the citizens, and so now it seems like a great deal of surprise to them, and they're very leery of it. So that's what I'd like to see there.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez?
Like everybody else has said, I support the large projects. Public Works, if it's passed, their building will be right behind here, and it'll be a publicly accessible building. Right now, it's almost impossible to get into Public Works if you need to. Swimming pools, that's our future. We build a beautiful pool. People want to move here. Our libraries already are known throughout the community as our #1 library for kids. So we need to do stuff for the future. Dog park, hike and bike trail is a good example. That was funded by grants, or most of it. I think we had a 20% match, but most of that was funded through grants. Let's look for other sources to keep our tax dollar down. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Valdez?
I support the large projects, Public Works and the animal shelter, and the other projects all relate to quality of life. Our city needs to focus on the quality of our life, and that includes our parks, the restrooms that may be family friendly. The Leon Valley Annex needs to be demolished and reconstructed over here. And our parks need to be our primary focus. I know that the park area in the El Verde was probably the least popular for the citizens. But we need to focus definitely also on the swimming pools. They are not ADA compliant, and that's very important for accessibility for all citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. As usual, Leon Valley, we have more questions than we have time. So with that, I'm going to, in reverse order, give the candidates 30 seconds to tell me why you should vote for them. And I'll start with Mr. Bradshaw. 30 seconds. You should know.
Okay, again, as I said in my opening remarks, my whole thing is I don't have a personal agenda. The things that I want, it's not about that. It's about what the citizens want. If you look at the org chart, the citizens are on top, and then the council. And we report to you. You are the boss, and I'm always open. Feel free to email me or call me and text me, and I will try to do my best to get an answer if I don't have it or to respond. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hefner?
Yeah, so my priorities are to bring the heart of servant leader to our city. Too often, public servants get in it to serve themselves, and that's not, I don't think, why we should be here. We should be here to serve the citizens. Ultimately, to do that, I want to enable you to have the freedom to choose how to go about your life in government, to not be in the way, to remove the burdens and regulations that keep you from making your own decisions. I really appreciate you guys investing your time this morning into bettering our community. I ask for your place 3.
Thank you. Ms. Bolton?
Thank you. I'm offering experienced leadership, honesty, no lack of enthusiasm, and motivation to forth the changes that we as citizens want to have in Leon Valley. I'm willing to put forth the time and effort and listen to both sides of the story and make only decisions that are based on proven facts, not based on somebody's hidden agenda or hearsay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Valdez.
I want to improve the quality of life of our city and look back on my service, see the progress I helped to create, and have a feeling of pride and satisfaction. Thank you for your vote.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez.
I have been on city council, and I bring my knowledge as a business owner and civic leader to help Leon Valley move forward. Please vote for me for city council.
Thank you. Mr. Wolf.
Thank you. I want to thank you for this opportunity today. But the reason why I'm running is to ensure that we reduce our liabilities in the city government, eliminate sensationalism in our meetings, bring the facts back, return competence and accountability back to the government to ensure that we have stable confidence in our